like a thrill, it's easy to fall for New Zealand.
Kiwis love to bring people over here, show them your environment, and try to scare people to death while they're here. Awesome run, dudes. That was a little bit icy down there, so you guys dealt with that really well. You're a bunch of legends.
Tour guide Steve Latham loves adventure. He's made a life out of it.
And have a good look around and get some real cool runs happening. I basically just left home when I was 17 and started hitchhiking around the country. I learnt a lot about New Zealand while I was doing that. Then wanted to carry on with that and somehow make a living out of just being in New Zealand and showing people how beautiful it was.
But New Zealand has beauty with bite. Too often in recent years, adventure has turned to deadly misadventure. Queenslander Scott Ashcroft is hoping that won't happen today.
Hey, it's a very special day today, isn't it? Why is it a very special day? Whose birthday is it? Scotty's birthday! One thing about Scotty is that he's scared of heights. So as a birthday present, we are going to throw him off a 134-metre bridge. What do we think of that idea?
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
So you're afraid of heights?
I am, yeah.
Why are you going to jump off a bridge?
I have no idea. I guess it's good just to test yourself out a bit, challenge yourself.
Over the back of your head here, the harness.
Scott has run with the bulls in Pamplona. It was a buzz. But it's New Zealand which really gets his adrenaline pumping. This is his second trans-Tasman trip in 8 months.
How are you? Yeah. So you're going to be out on the edge like this, push off away from us as far as you can, go in head first.
Here at the moment, I'm not feeling too bad.
How many times have you been to the bathroom?
A couple.
So I like to look down to see where we're going.
2.5 million people travel to New Zealand each year. Nearly 40% will try at least one adventure activity.
Awesome. I'm just going to bring you all one in at a time then.
How you feeling, bro?
Not good, man.
Okay, man, just breathe it in, relax, chill out, just live in the moment, okay? Just have one thing in your mind, and that is as soon as you get to that platform, you're jumping, you're not going to stop. We're jumping, aren't we?
Yeah.
Jumping?
Yeah,
jumping. Job on. Happy birthday.
New Zealand's highest bungee jump is no cheap thrill. The 134-metre plunge costs about $200. But jumpers say the experience is priceless.
All right, man, it's showtime. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go!
Well, I think the main thing is it opens up the doors for opportunity that people didn't think they could actually do. You know, and everybody walks away feeling really good about themselves and ready to take on other challenges. And you know, life is a big challenge, and if you can take on some of these challenges, the reward's huge.
Look at that, man, you've done it.
Surviving his 25th birthday is something Scott Ashcroft will never forget.
I don't know, I just can't believe I actually did it. Like, it's something I never would have ever done, really. So, pretty happy that I got through it.
Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Big jump.
New Zealander AJ Hackett pioneered commercial bungee and now runs jump sites around the world. He was inspired by the traditional vine jumpers of Vanuatu and a lifetime love of playing with gravity.
When the opportunity came up to play around with rubber, I just sort of started fantasising about things that we couldn't do as kids, and we thought, well, then there's some real possibilities here. We can jump a lot higher, you know. Could be a lot of fun.
AJ's dive off the Eiffel Tower in Paris in 1987 brought bungee to world attention, and then the world to Queenstown when he and Henry Van Ash opened up their passion to paying customers.
So if you don't jump, you don't
don't get your money back, right?
Today, business is bigger than ever.
This is where New Zealand's adventure tourism industry really got started 24 years ago at the Kawarau Bridge in Queenstown. Bungee jumping is still one of the iconic activities, and despite how it might appear, one of the safest.
We've jumped now just over 2.5 million customers in 23 years, and we haven't killed anybody. Touched lots of wood.
Queenstown is now recognised as the adventure capital of the world, Zorbing just one of the latest Kiwi inventions. Tourism is one of New Zealand's most lucrative industries, worth $18 billion a year, thanks increasingly to adrenaline-charged activities. But growth has come at a cost.
It would be all too late, but still they try in a desperate bid to save the life of a woman stuck under the jet boat when it overturned. The 21-year-old was travelling with her boyfriend when they went on a mad dog trip on the Kawarau River. She became trapped under the water against this rock, desperate attempts to rescue her alive unsuccessful.
The appalling, the ridiculous way she died has just been very upsetting. You know, it just was so preventable at every stage.
At least 50 adventure tourists have died in New Zealand over the past 8 years. Adventure aviation has taken a particularly large toll.
It was all that remained when a hot air balloon caught on power lines and went up in flames near Carterton. 11 people on board were killed, including pilot Lance Hopping.
This year's Carterton balloon accident was New Zealand's worst aviation disaster since the 1979 Mount Erebus plane crash.
Witnesses say there was a sudden isolated gust of wind.
The cause of the tragedy is still being determined, but investigators have said the balloon was not airworthy and the pilot had cannabis in his system.
The scene of the tragic flight. The burnt-out wreckage of the small aircraft with 9 people on board lies at the end of Fox Glacier's airstrip.
Only 16 months earlier, a skydiving plane crash killed 9 people, among them 24-year-old Briton Bradley Coker.
They did not comply with the rules and did not ensure the aircraft was being operated in accordance with the flight manual.
My son's death was entirely preventable. It was not an accident. It was an inevitable certainty that that was going to happen.
Bradley's father, Chris Coker, is on a mission. He's launched an internet campaign warning adventure tourists to stay away from New Zealand.
Don't cry, Daddy.
Chris Coker says there'll be more deaths unless New Zealand overhauls its legal system to ensure adventure operators can be held to account.
My main concern is I really don't want another father in the world to get a knock on the door from the police to tell them their child's been killed. It will happen again because of the law in New Zealand, the fact that you can't sue anybody for negligence or wrongful death, that you can't do that. So nobody is held to account. It's just not safe. It's allowing them to run dangerous operations, and they do, and this is the result.
Martin Stacey has also been campaigning for tighter controls on adventure tour operators.
The land here drops away 6 metres every kilometre as it goes towards the coast.
Ballooning may appear to be the gentlest of extreme sports, but this is a 4-ton aircraft with more power than many a light plane and no brakes. A pilot can take the craft up or down, but direction is determined by the wind.
It's a magical experience flying balloons, and at different altitudes you get different wind directions, and that's how you can control your balloon.
Reading the weather correctly and erring on the side of caution is critical.
I have one rule in ballooning, and my rule is I'd rather be on the ground wishing I'm in the air than in the air wishing I'm on the ground.
So back in March, there was a balloon that went into the top of trees. Is that something which happens to everybody at some stage because of freak gusts?
I suspect if every balloonist is honest, they will hit trees at some stage, and it's a learning curve. Now, that was a commercial flight. Conditions must probably be outside what they should have been in.
Did you fly that day?
No, we cancelled our flight that day.
Did other balloon companies fly?
Yeah, there's about 4 or 5 of us all said no to flying.
The company that did fly on March the 24th and clipped trees coming into land was Balloon Adventures Up and Away Limited. It's being investigated by the Civil Aviation Authority, and not for the first time.
We're doing about 6 or 7 kilometres now.
I'm not surprised.
The company says it was a minor incident, there was no damage done.
No, but the potential was hugely there for major incident.
Dean Ragg is a former chief pilot of Balloon Adventures Up and Away. When he left the company in March 2010, he took his safety concerns to the Civil Aviation Authority. 4 months later, the CAA grounded the company's 7 balloons for 7 weeks. It said the operation presented a threat to people's safety.
I started looking into rules, regulations, maintenance, all that sort of stuff, and I found a few things that needed being tidying up. And then I went through the process of tidying those particular spots up with a little difficulty.
One of the 2 directors of Balloon Adventures Up and Away is pilot Chris Johnson. As a young army officer, he was court-martialed for theft. In 2004, he was convicted under the Civil Aviation Act after providing air investigators with what the judge called a bogus document.
I've known him since I was 18.
He taught you to fly?
He taught me to fly aeroplanes, yep, originally. Yep.
So what kind of a person is he?
Very interesting one. Very intelligent, very clever, very charismatic. He could sell ice cubes to Eskimos, that sort of person. Yeah, he was a very good friend up until I started working for him, and then our friendship fell apart.
Why was that?
Just through these problems I was having as chief pilot.
Dean Ragg says Chris Johnson wanted to put 4 balloons in the air on a day of thick fog.
We got out to the launch site, it was foggy, so he couldn't even see to the other end of the launch site. He said, oh, it doesn't matter, we'll be fine. I'm like, no, look, this isn't legal. We're outside the legal parameters of flying, in which case he said, well, we'll wait and see what happens. So we did. We waited for about a half an hour and the conditions got worse. And then I said, well, that's it. The flight's over. We're going home.
Not flying potentially cost the company thousands of dollars in lost fares.
My experience has told me they're very money orientated. The profit comes first.
Chris Johnson is also a part owner and operator of Balloon Adventures Emirates. In April 2010, one of the company's balloons made a fast and heavy landing. 2 passengers were killed. A crew member was paralysed and later died. The company was cleared of any wrongdoing, and a conviction against the pilot was later quashed. But the aviation regulator found that the balloon had been launched in marginal weather after an earlier takeoff was aborted due to high winds.
Adventure tourism is the fastest growing sector within tourism.
Chris Johnson's partner in the Emirates business is Peter Collar. He's also a former director of Balloon Adventures Up and Away. In 1995, Peter Collar was flying for Up and Away when his balloon came down at sea off Christchurch. 3 tourists drowned. Is it a company that has been of concern to the Civil Aviation Authority?
Any company that has a conviction is of concern.
Rex Kenny believes there's no longer anywhere to hide for unsafe operators. He oversees adventure aviation for New Zealand's Civil Aviation Authority, the CAA.
So Rex, what do you call this?
This is called a Sonics.
And you built it?
I did, in my garage.
Under changes which took effect in May, all adventure aviation businesses must now be certified by the CAA. Previously, the authority could act only against pilots and aircraft.
Very sophisticated. So the new adventure aviation regulations allow us to actually suspend the operating certificate and therefore put the company on the ground if necessary in the worst cases. The introduction of 115 puts us almost on a different planet in regard to what happened previously and what's in the future.
Martin Stacey supports the new regulation, known as 115. His company was among the first to be audited and certified.
It just brings so much joy to people.
Balloon Adventures Up and Away is still going through the process. Its key people must pass a fit and proper person test, and the company must convince the CAA it has the systems and attitude to provide a safe adventure experience.
The aviation attitude is knowing that you get one chance. Once you're in the air, you don't have a second chance. You have to resolve the problems that you might encounter. What you can't have is a culture problem, because that won't allow you to solve the problem that you need to resolve, and will end up in disaster.
The new regulations, will they get rid of any cowboys in the industry?
Well, hopefully we haven't had cowboys in this. We have people that sort of push the law to its limits.
Balloon Adventures Up and Away has not been flying since just before the new requirement came into effect in May.
Into the ground, don't forget to scream, ah!
But it says its grounding is due to a drop-off in tourist numbers since the Christchurch quakes, not any rule change.
What do you reckon, guys?
Director Chris Johnson declined an interview on camera, but spoke with me from Dubai.
Chris Johnson says he's confident that Balloon Adventures Up and Away will live up to its name and will soon have its balloons back up over the skies here in Christchurch. He says he's never pressured any of his pilots to fly when they didn't want to, and that safety is paramount. He also told me he welcomes the tighter regulations.
So if you have somebody who is a director of a company who has been convicted under the Civil Aviation Act, is that person then deemed to be not a fit and proper person?
Not necessarily. We'd be looking to see that there was a compliance history that showed that if there was a mistake made, that over time that wasn't repeated.
Is Chris Johnson a fit and proper person to be running a balloon operation?
Well, that's what the whole process of the assessment's about, and as I say, that's still being done.
The New Zealand government insists its adventure tourism industry is safe. There's no argument from Scott Ashcroft and his thrill-seeking tour mates. Done with bungee, they're now on to jet boating and zip lining.
Have you ever had any fears about safety doing any of these adventure activities?
No, not at all. No, they're all well organised, run by people who obviously know what they're doing. So I guess at some point you've got to just leave it to them and trust them.
But the government admits industry self-regulation has been far from perfect, so it's tightening controls across all adventure activities.
They change the rules and bring out new regulations as if to say they fixed the problem. The problem is not fixed. The problem was never a shortage of rules and regulation. The problem is no enforcement. Nobody is scared. There's nobody held to account.
Chris Coker believes the only way to truly hold adventure companies to account is to allow accident victims and their families to sue for damages, something which is almost impossible under the country's accident compensation regime.
If you're a foreigner holidaying in Queenstown and you have an accident, it's more than likely you'll wind up here at the local hospital, or there are any number of doctors, physiotherapists and other health professionals about town. But no matter who you see or what treatment you receive, it'll be paid for by the New Zealand taxpayer. That's because under the country's unique accident compensation scheme, anyone who's injured in New Zealand, be it resident or visitor, is covered. The trade-off is that you can't sue for damages. Professor Susan Watson says the system, when introduced in 1974, was revolutionary, taking the lawyers and the lottery out of accident compensation.
If you got hurt by a rich person, you might get $1 million compensation. If you got knocked down by a car driven by someone with no assets, then you wouldn't get any compensation at all. So there was sort of a desire to have a system which New Zealanders perceived to be fairer, where everyone would get compensation regardless of fault and regardless of who caused the injury.
The universal scheme covers people for accidents at home, work and play. Yet ironically, it may make accidents more likely. Research conducted by Auckland University's Commercial Law Department suggests that without the threat of being sued, an organisation can get complacent, with disastrous results.
New Zealand has 4 times the rate of workplace fatalities than the UK and twice the rate of workplace fatalities than Australia.
And what do you put that down to?
Well, all I can say is that it doesn't disprove our idea that because corporations lack conscience, without the ability to sue the corporation for accidents, there isn't an incentive. There isn't sufficient incentive for them to put health and safety regimes or appropriate health and safety regimes in place.
The deadly Pike River mine disaster in 2010 and the catastrophic building collapses in the Christchurch earthquakes have shone a spotlight on New Zealand's workplace safety, or lack of it. The government has ordered an independent review. Professor Watson says thought should be given to introducing a charge of corporate manslaughter as part of a raft of changes.
What New Zealand could consider bringing back the right to sue for health and safety breaches in workplaces. Another option is to beef up the level of fines for health and safety breaches in workplaces. In Australia, the maximum fine for a corporation breaching health and safety is $2 million. In New Zealand, it's $500,000.
Bungy entrepreneur AJ Hackett believes people should have the right to sue for gross negligence. But he says litigation can go too far, like the time a woman tried to sue his Las Vegas operation when she got wet hair on a jump.
Every day working in America, we had the threat of our business being closed down through completely ridiculous litigation. And it was a major issue. And in New Zealand, we can concentrate on actually providing a very safe environment and a fun time for our customers. For me, I like the idea of if you want to do something, you take responsibility for your own actions. It's got to give a country and a society and individuals heaps more confidence and a lot more out-of-the-box thinking for overcoming problems and creating good solutions.
Across New Zealand's adventure tourism industry, there's little enthusiasm for ditching the country's no-fault accident liability system.
You have to look at the US, where people can get the pantsuit off them, and yet they still have accidents.
I reckon that we've got a culture that we're going to take it to a professional level without over-regulating it and trying to sue each other and all that kind of carry on. We'll always keep it a little bit edgy, and that's what people come over here for. If you're sort of worried about getting your knees dirty, then maybe you should go to a different place.
We're just going to be like this. You can put your hands out elegantly, like we're
God.
diving. And then we're going to look at the horizon out there, and it'll just be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
And we're just going to lean forward and just pop out together.
New Zealand's unique approach to accident liability has helped the country develop an adrenaline industry with global reach.
Yeah, that one, cool.
New Zealand is not scared of going its own way, whether in being the first to give women the vote or in standing up to the US over nuclear policy.
I'm just worried about whether or not I'll be able to go off the edge, but actually I suppose you're going to sort that out for me, aren't you?
But in selling adventure, perception is everything. People want a safe scare. The challenge for New Zealand is in tightening the safety net without taking the adventure out of adventure tourism.